All right. Oh, wait. We got it. Ignore the mess. Hello. It's been a while. I can't but laugh at myself as I'm recording these. I'm so sorry. I literally just think it's so funny, but because I like yapping and I like talking, but like I've been having such a hard time with editing. I don't even want to get into the trouble I faced when I was trying to edit while I was in Iran, and I don't even think it was because I was in Iran. It was literally just because my phone was tweaking out. But with all that said and done, I really hope you can't hear my neighbors in the background because that's going to be really frustrating. They're really loud. Last night, yeah, it was last night, they were literally had a boombox on top of their car and were blasting music. My walls were shaking. I wanted to come back and yap about the books that I've read so far this year and kind of just go over. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to talk about the books that I read so far in the year since my last video. This is the third time I'm trying to record this, and I have given up on it being perfect because I think that's what's stopping me from doing what I've got to do, which is get through just yapping about the books that I've read recently. So you're going to ignore the background. You're going to ignore any sounds we hear because you're going to get what you're going to get. Oh no. Okay. I'm just going to go through all the books that I've read up until this point. We're going to play catch up. I'm not going to say what month I read them in because I truly cannot remember. So these are all the books that I've read since February. So March, April, May, June, July, August, because today's September 1st. And I'm just going to kind of go quick fire through all of them up until the last two that I read because those are the ones that I remember the most. Did I talk about the Daughter of the Moon Goddess? I feel like I recorded a video of the Daughter of the Moon Goddess, but I didn't post it because the last book I mentioned in a video I posted was Frankenstein, but I'm not going to spend too much time. So Bride was really, really fun. Bride by Ali Hazelwood. It was crazy. The smut was insane. I did not like it. It was more funny to me than anything else. I have a very vivid memory of washing dishes and her talking about the werewolf anatomy, and I literally stopped washing my dishes and started bursting out laughing. So take that as you will, but it was funny. It was good. I mean, it wasn't meant to be funny. It was a good romance. The smut parts were a little too much for me, but they were hilarious. So that's the first thing. Then I read The Dragon Republic, so the second book in the Poppy War trilogy, which is fun that I'm going through this because I genuinely did not remember if I'd read the third book or not. And I'm guessing I didn't because I literally don't know. I didn't. So the second book was really good. I think I enjoyed the second book more than the first one. I don't really remember a lot of details because those are such big books and so much happens, and I actually listened to the audiobook of this one. I don't remember everything that happens. I do remember that one of the things that was driving me reading the second book was the hope that this character that dies in the first book isn't actually dead, and turns out he is, which wasn't very that's not a spoiler. Anyways, which wasn't very like fun for me to realize. So that is The Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. Then I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is by Su Lin Tan, and is part of like a series, the Celestial Kingdom series. I didn't love this book and I didn't hate this book. Basically, it's about this girl who is the daughter of the moon goddess. Obviously, she's living on the moon and then gets a visit from the celestial emperor, and then has to run away, and basically kind of her journey after that point. I think the story itself was fun in a lot of ways, but the use of the commas in this book drove me insane. Literally sentences that did not need commas had commas, and like when I'm reading personally, like my reading like the flow in my head really follows the punctuation, and having that many commas in all the wrong places really stilted my flow of reading and therefore made it less enjoyable for me. Still a pretty fun book. I like the story. Like, it was interesting enough that I finished it. But that is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Lynn. Then I read Exit West by Mohsin Hamid. I read this for an independent study that I was doing. It was kind of a work to give me information and input on like how to deal with certain aspects of my own story that I'm writing, my own novel. And it was okay. I honestly didn't like it as much as I hoped I would. I think it might have been something to do with the narrator a little bit, but I also felt like I remember what happened in the story. Basically, these characters are running away from turmoil in their country, and they use these doors, so it's kind of like a surrealist magic. They use these doors to go from city to city, and as they're in new cities together, they are trying to like survive. And there's also like a love story between the two characters, which like there's a huge like will they, won't they, what's going to happen with them element to that. I didn't find the ending very satisfactory. But I thought the concept was interesting. So basically what a lot of people, I've like learned this like phrasing, but it was a cool concept, not the greatest execution. Then I read Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. I really enjoyed listening to this because it made me feel hopeful. It was really informative in a lot of ways. I mean, I think one of the things that stuck in my mind was this idea that all of our struggles are intertwined and our freedom is intertwined, and issues and problems in one part of the world may feel distant to us where we are living immediately and in our surroundings, but they're very intricately intertwined with the rest of the world as well, and where you are in your freedom and liberation, your struggle. So yeah, that was Freedom is a Constant Struggle by Angela Y. Davis. And then the next book I read was Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, which I've read 2 or 3 other books by her. I read Enchantment of Ravens, and I've read Sorcery of Thorns, and I feel like there's another one I read, but maybe not. I really liked this book. I really like the concept in this book. It's about these nuns who deal with death and kind of souls, and there's different like levels of like, not ghosts, what is it, like souls, like I don't know, there's these different levels of like strength of souls or like magical being things that are attached to like talismans, and I'm having a really hard time summarizing this. Why can't I talk? Our main character has to run away from her convent because all hell breaks loose, and then she has a journey. I'm gonna leave it at that because I read these a long time ago, so I don't remember every single thing. I just remember I really like this book. It's definitely something I would reread, and if I was to compare it to Enchantment of Ravens and Sorcery of Thorns, I read Enchantment of Ravens a long time ago, but Sorcery of Thorns was more recent. Like, I read that more recently. I could say with confidence that I liked it more than Sorcery of Thorns. Not sure how it pans up compared to Enchantment of Ravens, because again, I read that a long time ago. So that is Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. And the next book I read was Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is a memoir about Michelle, who also is a singer. She is the singer, I don't know if it's it's not a band. It's like a musical group, the Japanese Breakfast, which was really crazy to find out because I actually had listened to one of their songs before, so I didn't know. But this was really, really sad. Like, obviously. It's about her mom who develops cancer, and like the treatment and kind of a lot of dealing with grief and loss and creativity themes that really spoke to me as I was listening to this one. It was really also just very hard to listen to at times. Like, I sobbed. But I would definitely recommend it. So that was Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. The next book I read was Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I the writing was fine, the story was fine, like the plot was fine, the characters were fine. It was actually really crazy jumping into this after Crying in H Mart. I feel like I just was reading a lot, and then also Vespertine, honestly. I was reading a lot of books about like death and dying people. And Lessons in Chemistry is kind of like, I know it's trying to be a feminist novel, but it just kind of felt forced. Like, it felt like the theme in the story of feminism and independent women was kind of trumping the story, which I always feel like I hate when that happens with books or short stories or anything that I'm reading, because I just think that the story should come first, and themes and the moral and everything else kind of follows. Because I think that a lot of times when you set out to write something with a theme in mind and only a theme in mind, and you don't pay as much attention to your characterization or your plot, then the story altogether will fall flat and the theme won't matter, because no one's gonna pick up on your theme if they're not even reading your book in the first place. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Then I read A Dowry in Blood by S.T. Gibson. I don't know what the hype is with this book. I did not like it. I mean, I liked the concept. The execution for me was honestly not great. I thought the book was very short. I thought the pacing was too fast. I wanted a lot more than I got from this book, basically. And I heard a lot of people talking about really enjoying it, which is why as I was reading it, I was like, is my copy broken or something? Like, do I just not have the right copy of the book or something? Because I don't know why everyone else seems to love this book, and I personally just did not enjoy it. Like, I was really struggling the last like 20-30 pages. I remember texting my friend and being like, I'm almost done with this book. I literally cannot stand it. And then she told me to DNF it, but I felt so bad. It doesn't even feel so bad. I just didn't want to mark it as complete without reading like the last like 20 pages. So I read the last 20 pages. It didn't save itself. Honestly, don't know what the hype is with this book. So that's A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Then I read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. I loved this book. It was so cutesy. It was very demure. It was really, really cute. It was just a really fun read. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's basically about this girl who's kind of like a witch influencer. So everybody thinks that she's a fake witch, but these people see her videos, realize that she's actually a witch, and recruit her to teach a few young kids how to hone and control their magic. And then it's like a little love story after that point. So I really love this book. It was so cutesy and demure, and I loved it. So that is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. Then I read The Ballad of Never After, which is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. So I actually read that. I read that while traveling. I'm actually reading the third book in the series now, and I realized that I truly don't remember what happened in the last book. Like, I was reading the third book, I started it a few days ago, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, I don't remember any of it. So that's kind of unfortunate, because I really think it's a fun series. I honestly, I know a lot of people say that they like this series more than Caraval, but I personally, from what I remember of Caraval and Legendary and stuff, like, I remember eating that up when I read that book series. So personally, I think I liked Caraval more. I mean, I might reread Caraval to figure out if I like that one more versus this one. I've been meaning to reread it anyways for a few years now, so I can't say with like 100% certainty, but so far, like, just based off of my vibes, I feel like I liked Caraval more, if that makes sense. And then I pretty much didn't read anything for all of like June, July. I mean, I picked up my next read and I was listening on and off, but the problem wasn't the book that I was reading, because I really loved it actually. It was just that I just didn't have the mental capacity to just focus on anything. I hardly wrote anything. I don't know. It was a weird summer. It was actually a really weird summer. In some ways it was a hard summer. But yeah, so the next book that I read and I actually listened to was Funny Story by Emily Henry, which I loved this book. Like, People We Meet on Vacation girlies rise. I loved this book. The absolute joy that this book was, particularly the ending, chef's kiss. Emily Henry, you are a star. Yeah, I don't want to say anything about it because I honestly think that it's better to go in it blind. I feel like I need to breathe. So the next book I read was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands, which I loved. This is by Heather Fawcett. So, where was I? So anyways, the second book in a series. There's another book coming out, which I'm so excited for. I absolutely loved and ate this book up. I like this one better than the first one, and I really like the first one. So basically it's about Emily Wilde again. She goes on a research trip type thing. This time her niece and her department head is also there with her, and then obviously Wardell, the love interest, is there too. It was so cute, you guys. It was so cute. I ate this up. Yeah, I'm not gonna tell you more about the plot because I remember the plot, but I don't want to talk about it. Okay, so that was Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Heather Fawcett. Okay. So then the next thing I read, which is a shorter book. I feel like it was advertised to me in a TikTok or a reel or something. I think it was in a reel as the book that you can read to get out of a reading slump. A short book that you can read. I tried to read it. I did finish it. But about halfway through reading it, I was just like, hello? Like, are we never going to get the answers to the questions? And I know that that might have been part of the point, but I hated it. Okay? I genuinely did not like it. I felt so unsatisfied by the end, and I feel like this was another case of let's set out to write a book with themes about like this, that, and the other, and not focus on plot or characterization or anything really. It really was just like no plot, all vibes, but the vibes weren't even fun. And you start out with a question in the story, and you feel like you're probably going to get the answers towards the end and you don't. You just get more scattered information. I hated it. I honestly did not like this book. I know a lot of people enjoyed it and they like it and they find that it's very like thought-provoking, but honestly, I feel like if you want to write about themes, just write nonfiction essays. Like, why are you trying to write a story then? Sorry. Anyways, that was I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline, Harpman, by the way. I don't think I said the title. I don't know why my Goodreads is tweaking out, but whatever. So then finally we get to the main books, which let me pull up my chair and get closer. So the next book that I read is Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. And I listened to this as an audiobook. I think that kind of pushed me into being able to read again, because I truly felt like most of summer I felt like I simply could not finish a book. I couldn't pick it up. I was just like watching YouTube videos and reels. Really felt like really bummed out because I had such a good beginning of the year with reading, and then I kind of just flopped for summer, and I feel like myself getting back into the rhythm. And I think that the reason is because the Just for the Summer audiobook is actually really good. I really like the narrators. The story was so cutesy. I mean, so basically it's about, I need to stop saying so basically. So Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez is about these two characters who feel like they have a curse on them, where whenever they're dating someone and they break up, the other person finds their soulmate. So they find the person that they're going to get married to, and they get married and whatever. And Justin, one of the characters, the male love interest, obviously, writes a Reddit post and is like, am I the asshole for naming my dog after my best friend who fell in love with my ex, and then blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. Our female love interest, the main character, what's her name? The girl reads the Reddit post and is like, he, I have the same curse, lol. She messages him, and then they start talking, and then their lives ensue. We all know how it's gonna end. It's a romance novel. But it was so cutesy. It was really fun. I felt like it was interesting because it deals with topics of like mental illness and struggling with like changing some of your bad behaviors, and kind of the idea of how ready do you need to be before you get into a relationship. Like, do you need to be completely healed or a little bit healed or whatever? So I really liked that. I thought it was a really, really sweet story, and I was able to get through it pretty fast. I read that in August. And then I also read Anne of Green Gables, which I hadn't read in so long. Like, I grew up reading Anne of Green Gables and like Little Women and whatever, because for a while there, I was reading on iBooks. And because of that, I was reading a lot of like classics. I was reading a lot of L.M. Montgomery, which was Anne of Green Gables. And I was also reading a lot of like Louisa May Alcott. I've read Moods, which is one of my favorite books by her. I read Little Women. I read An Old-Fashioned Girl. There's like so many. So the point is, I read Anne of Green Gables a really long time ago, and then recently I just started reading it, and then I realized, oh my god, I'm actually really interested. And I realized there was so much of it that I hadn't remembered, and especially the ending. I was literally in bed sobbing, by the way. L.M. Montgomery, when I find you, we're gonna have to talk. Like, when I read The Hunger Games, let's just put it this way. When I reread the Hunger Games series last year, I had forgotten something very important. And it broke me when I remembered. And then when I reread Anne of Green Gables, the same thing happened. And I realized my brain tries to erase the really hard things. Because I was so upset. Like, I'm so upset. I genuinely was like, oh, maybe I'll read the whole series. Well, after this happened, I don't think I want to read any more of Anne of Green Gables. I think it's going to be too hard. That's all I'll say. L.M. Montgomery, when I find you. Anyways, That was the next book I read. It was so good though. I highly recommend it even so. Last but not least, I'm gonna tell you what books I'm currently reading. I'll probably make another video if I can edit this one. I'll make another one talking about the books I want to read for fall because I love fall and I'm so excited. I've started decorating stuff too, so maybe I'll show you that. It's nothing super fancy, but I'm proud of it nonetheless. The books that I'm reading right now, so I'm reading 2 books right now. I'm reading Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, which is so crazy because I did not realize that apparently her romance books are like a series. It's like part of your world. But I read the 3rd one first, and now I'm reading the 2nd one. I'm basically going out of order, but it seems like it doesn't really matter. Like there are some of the same places and stuff so far that I'm recognizing are kind of shared across the books, but other than that, it doesn't feel like I'm missing anything for having read Just for the Summer before, like the 2nd official book in the series. So I'm listening to Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, and that's pretty good so far, but I will say I think between that one and Just for the Summer, I liked Just for the Summer more. Obviously, I have to finish this one to see how I really feel about it. I'm reading the final book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. So I'm reading, what is it called? A Curse for True Love. I'm 20% through and I'm really enjoying it so far, basically. And that's that. With that, thank you for watching if you watched this, and if not, then you're probably not going to hear anything I say. So yeah, bye.